word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Marvel Comics X-Men character, Bishop. This is in large part due to the channel hitting 60,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So this is my way of saying thanks and giving my appreciation to you, Earth's mightiest subscribers, for helping us get this far. That's right, in today's video, we're gonna be talking about Bishop. I'm gonna teach you everything you need to know about this character to hold an intelligent conversation about him, and maybe even some other things. We're gonna talk about all this and more right now, but first, if you wanna see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and if you enjoy the video, I humbly ask that you Hulk smash that like button because it really helps the channel out. That said, let's ponder the question, who is Bishop? Lucas Bishop, mutant name Bishop, first appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 282 and 283 in 1991 and was created by John Byrne and Walt Spatacio. Bishop is a mutant from the future of Earth 1191, where Charles Xavier is dead, as well as most of the mutants that we know as the X-Men. Mutants as a whole have become an endangered species thanks to the Sentinels taking over control of the entirety of North America, and what few mutants are left that haven't been executed live out their lives in mutant relocation camps that function more like mutant concentration camps. Bishop was born into and grew up in one of these concentration camps alongside his sister Shard, who is also a mutant. It would not be until years later when humans and mutants would band together and fight back against the Sentinels, though not out of a sense of unity but to stop a greater threat, as the Sentinels were oppressing humans as well. This eventually led to the Summers Rebellion, which took the lives of Bishop's parents and also separated him from his grandmother and sister, until he was found by the Witness, a mutant once thought to be future Gambit, Remy LeBeau, but was in fact someone else. This was likely because the Witness helped raise Bishop and taught him how to be a proper thief. Bishop would eventually reconnect with his grandmother and sister and unlock his mutant abilities when attacked by a couple of rogue mutants who were going to kill his sister Shard. He jumped in the way of a killing blast and absorbed energy for the first time. This would lead to the two members of the XSE, the Xavier Security Enforcers, who Bishop initially thought were bad people, but would later learn they were truly heroes, and Bishop, having impressed two of its members, Amazon and Recoil, would be invited to join the XSE, bringing his sister along into the outfit as well, who eventually would become his commanding officer. This would lead to Bishop going up against Trevor Fitzroy, an ex-boyfriend of Shard, who had set her and Bishop up to be attacked by Implates, a mutant killing machine who hunts other mutants and absorbs their energy. This ultimately led to Shard being turned into an Implate and Bishop being forced to kill his own sister and starting a quest for revenge that led Bishop into focusing his efforts into hunting Trevor Fitzroy down. His investigations revealed a somewhat disrupted message from the X-Man Jean Grey, revealing a quotey fingers traitor was among the X-Men in the past. Bishop would not immediately follow this up until Trevor Fitzroy escaped from prison and into the past Bishop was warned about, which is how he encountered the X-Men he's been told stories about and then eventually became one. Bishop is an alpha-level mutant whose genetic mutation grants him the ability to absorb energy from all across the spectrum. He can absorb energy from kinetic energy blast, concussive blast, explosions, energy rays, electricity, fire, plasma, sound, light, psionic and psychic, and even magic energy, and once absorbed into his body, he can redirect that same energy with even more amplified force than what he initially received. He can also return it in the form of a concussive blast. In either case, if he redirects the energy he's attacked with back at the attacker, the energy he redirects at them can override their own immunity to being harmed by their powers, if they have any immunity at all. Bishop often uses this ability to absorb the energy of his fellow X-Men's abilities to redirect right at their targets. Another interesting usage of his power is that if Bishop chooses to not redirect the energy he absorbs, he can store it instead. He can even use this energy to enhance his own physical attributes, namely his strength, stamina, agility, balance, and speed, even a limited level of invulnerability. While no one exactly knows how much he can increase these attributes, it is known that these attributes become superhuman level. Even though Bishop can heal himself from any damage he incurs thanks to his abilities, his power to absorb energy of any type effectively makes him invulnerable to attack, even from physical damage. Originally, Bishop could not absorb inertial attacks like physical blows or being knocked into a wall, but over time, he has learned to do so. His powers also grant him a measure of psychic resistance since he can absorb psychic and psionic energies. Another trick of Bishop's abilities is that he's also able to take energy directed at him and convert it into another type of energy. For example, if he's attacked with ambient energy, he can convert said ambient energy into psychic energy if he chooses to do so, despite not having any latent psychic abilities. He has done this in the past to affect telekinesis by launching a truck with his mind. Speaking of being able to flip-flop the different energies that he absorbs, he once used this ability during a terminal velocity fall to absorb enough energy to turn it from kinetic energy to light energy to sonic energy to slow his fall until he was as light as a leaf. Bishop's powers do have limitations though. While he can absorb energy directed at him, the amount he can absorb all at once is not unlimited. This was witnessed during the Civil War event when a mind-controlled Cyclops unleashed the full force of his optic blast on Bishop, and Bishop absorbed so much energy it was beginning to kill him. He was forced to exhaust the energy into the atmosphere to save everyone nearby because the level of force Cyclops was emitting would have killed every person near them. That said, this feat proves he can take on a great deal of energy, seeing as Cyclops' optic blasts are typically held back under normal circumstances, and Scott Summers can literally punch through a mountain or vaporize a sentinel. Bishop has also been able to absorb energy attacks meant to kill an entire team of X-Men from beings as powerful as Onslaught. That said, some forms of energy are more difficult to absorb and manage than others. This is similar in nature to Captain Marvel Carol Danvers' issues with absorbing certain types of energy, like in her case, magic. For Bishop, it is non-energy based attacks. Think bullets and other similar projectile weapons. Even a knife or sharp end of a crowbar would be tough for him to try to absorb the energy from, even if it was inertial energy. He also struggles with ambient energy on some level. As mentioned earlier, Bishop will exhaust any excess energy he absorbs automatically if he does not do it himself, causing an explosive wave of energy emitting from his body that cannot be controlled. His body will automatically deplete whatever energy he possesses until it is back to storing a manageable amount. He also has no control over how much energy he absorbs or even how he absorbs it. This ability is 100% passive. Whether or not this is the result of Bishop's powers, he is somewhat resistant to poisons, and this also allows him to no longer require as much food, water, sleep, or even oxygen. The energy he absorbs powers him just the same as any of those things would individually. He's also been shown to astrally project himself, and he, likely due to time traveling, as often as he has, tends to have an awareness of when and where he is at all times. His awareness is something that will often get him in trouble too, or even make his fellow X-Men not trust him. We'll speak more on that here shortly. All that aside, this chronal awareness is, by Bishop's own admission, not a mutant ability, but is due to training, but may also have something to do with being a great-grandson of the mutant Gateway, who is a fan-favorite teleporting mutant who is intimately familiar with time travel. Bishop is also capable of maintaining memories from dead or otherwise divergent timelines. He's managed to retain the memories of not only his own past and present, but also the past and present both during and after Age of Apocalypse. Outside of mutant-related abilities, Bishop, without enhancing it, has the normal strength, speed, and stamina of a man his age who engages in rigorous exercise regularly. He is fluent in the languages of Mandarin, Arabic, and French. He's a highly trained physical combatant with expert-level hand-to-hand combat techniques thanks to his time being trained by the XSE, and his marksmanship is outstanding, being adept at wielding not only the futuristic weapons of his time, but even the ones of the present day. That said, he typically prefers his guns from the future or weapons specifically outfitted for his skill set, some of which allow him to channel the energy he's absorbed through them to power and fuel his own shots. Thanks to his police background in the XSE, he is also a skilled investigator and able to work crime scenes as well as track suspects on the move. He also tends to keep time-traveling devices on him at all times, even when time travel isn't called for. This has allowed him to make runs on the fly to the past, present, and future, and even grants him a form of teleportation. Thanks to the La Bête Noire, or the Black Beast, a Phoenix Force-like entity, Bishop once had cosmic powers, if only for a short while. He could even sap the life forces of other beings and planets. This force was parasitic in nature and not something he wanted to keep around, since it wanted to corrupt and consume everyone on Earth and on any planet it could find. He was also once possessed by the Demon Bear for a short while, and this increased his already potent energy absorption abilities and granted him an infinite source of energy to fuel him. This allowed Bishop to always perform at superhuman levels and greater, and he could effectively, quotey fingers, fight forever thanks to the Demon Bear's inexhaustible power. Though many have often shipped characters like Bishop and Storm to be romantically linked, a storyline exists in X-Men: The Life and Times of Lucas Bishop, where it is heavily implied Storm is Bishop's grandmother, with her being depicted as having long flowing white hair and intimate knowledge of the X-Men, things that no one but an X-Man would know. She is never named as Storm, but it explains why they never, quotey fingers, hooked up. Bishop and his sister Shard, though born in America, are actually born from Australian Aboriginal mutants Burnham and Katie. Speaking of Bishop's parents, interesting sidebar about his birth is that when he was born with his umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, and he was suffocated. He had to be resuscitated immediately after he was born. Bishop's M tattoo was not a personal choice of his. This is something he was branded with to be identified as a mutant by humans and Sentinels. Bishop is not above killing, something that put him at odds with the X-Men initially, but Bishop has no qualms about taking a life, something he has since softened on somewhat, but he will do it if the situation requires it. That wasn't the only thing that put him at odds with the X-Men though. His accusations of Gambit being a traitor to the X-Men tended to rub everyone the wrong way, even Storm, who typically had the patience of Job. They also didn't care for his willy-nilly destruction of Xavier Institute property, blasting through walls, and kicking down doors to take down intruders. Bishop has been instrumental on multiple instances when it comes to important X-Men storylines. He acted as a chronal anchor for the X-Men when trying to stop Legion during the Legion Quest story arc. He also stopped Onslaught from killing the X-Men by absorbing Onslaught's deadly psionic attack. He was also the one whose memories of the original timeline helped convince the Magneto in the Age of Apocalypse timeline that there truly was a better timeline than the one they were currently in, and that it was a timeline worth fighting for. Despite having been an X-Man for a while, it wasn't until he joined the Extreme X-Men where he reveals that his first name is Lucas. Bishop is one of the few mutants that retained his powers after M-Day, when Scarlet Witch said no more mutants and cut the number of powered mutants numbers down dramatically. Interesting sidebar about M-Day, this was the beginning of Bishop's slide towards the dark side. Not only was he dry snitching on the X-Men for the ONE, but was helping them hunt down runaway mutants. Very suspect for a guy who came from a dystopian future where mutants were hunted down by Sentinels. Another odd thing that came up post M-Day was that with Bishop being from the future, some were really confused as to why Bishop, knowing so much about what will happen to the present day X-Men, he never mentioned M-Day, something Cannonball would challenge him on, and Bishop would simply say it might be because he's not from Earth 616's future, but maybe an alternate future of another Earth. But this was in fact a lie. We definitely know that he knew about House of M, considering the fact when we learn in X-Men: The Times and Life of Lucas Bishop that his grandmother even told him about how the Scarlet Witch had cast a spell on all mutants. He simply chose to say nothing, which is messed up when you think about the fact that of all the things the X-Men have been through, this seems like something worth preventing. He would also go on to withhold information about other events too, namely the Shadow King debacle, where the Shadow King himself tried to control Proteus to take over the world in Charles Soule's Astonishing X-Men run. Speaking of big events, Bishop was oddly enough on the pro-superhuman registration side of the argument. Yet another odd choice considering the future timeline Bishop comes from. But just the same, Bishop worked for Tony Stark, unbeknownst to any of the X-Men, as an informant to let Stark know if any of the X-Men helped Captain America and the other anti-registration heroes. Bishop's most controversial moments found him on the X-Men shit list thanks to the story arcs Messiah Complex and Messiah War. Thanks to the birth of the first mutant since M-Day, this mutant would later turn out to be Hope Summers, but in the beginning, Bishop feared this new mutant would potentially become a terrible threat. This led to him acting incredibly out of character, sending Nano Sentinels to attack the X-Men, allowing Cable to take the fall for the attack since the X-Men never suspected him. He even attacked Forge, a character his future self had great history with. He tried on more than one occasion to kill Hope, but always hesitated. He eventually revealed his treachery to the X-Men after he was caught slipping by Predator X. This led to him botching Hope's assassination when his arm was ripped off by Predator X, leaving him to cauterize the wound with an unconscious Sunfire. Fearing Cable would get away with Hope, he panicked and tried to shoot Hope, who was being carried away by Cable, and missed. He wound up shooting Charles Xavier in the head by accident, killing him. Bishop, now outfitted with a cybernetic arm equipped with a time-traveling device as well as a bionic eye, would chase after Cable and Baby Hope, bird-dogging them across the timeline. He would ultimately fail at every turn, and in one case, even learned that if he killed Cable, it would create a future where Cable was seen as a Messiah-like figure. Despite this, Bishop still made attempt after attempt to kill Hope, even killing millions of otherwise innocent people along the way. He would even go as far as to align himself with Cable's evil clone Strife during the Messiah War. Little did Bishop know, Strife had no intention of killing Hope, but to make her his heir apparent, and when Bishop betrayed Strife, Strife's trap card was activated, leading to Bishop being denied his kill. Eventually, after so many run-ins, Cable would tamper with Bishop's bionic arm, triggering the chronal device inside it to send Bishop to the far-flung future and explode, leaving Bishop with no way back home. This would be the end of Bishop's quest to kill Hope once he realized that whatever she became, he would be as much responsible for it as Cable himself, and that he was wrong to try to kill her. Bishop would eventually return to the present sometime later thanks to being possessed by the Demon Bear in the future of 6700 AD. Hope and Bishop would eventually make peace with one another, but not before Hope tried to kill him for all the times he tried to kill her as a child. Though much like his friendship with Gambit, Bishop and Hope's friendship is on uneasy ground to say the least. Now yes, a lot of people will tend to say that Bishop just kind of flipped his lid and acted a whole fool during the events of Messiah War and Messiah Complex. However, if you dig a little deeper, you will learn there are some legitimate reasons why Bishop turned heel. During the pages of X-Men: The Times and Life of Lucas Bishop, we do learn different stories from people close to Bishop, namely the Witness and his grandmother, but other characters as well, where we learn that Hope Summers is seen as the cause for the downfall of all mutant society, that it is in fact her birth that in a roundabout way leads to the death of Bishop's own parents. He's known about the birth of Hope Summers and the trouble it could potentially cause since he was a child. So when Hope Summers was born, it kind of triggered him a little bit and brought back those old memories from his original timeline. Bishop has had more than his fair share of romantic relationships. He's been romantically linked to the Shi'ar character Deathbird in the past. Speaking of his relationship with Deathbird, on Earth 41001 in the series X-Men: The End, Bishop's relationship with Deathbird results in a child, a daughter named Aaliyah, Bishop. He would also have a relationship with Marvel Girl Jean Grey in the Age of X-Man alternate reality, a relationship that was technically forbidden and was something the two characters only acted on behind closed doors. Speaking of relationships, even though they haven't dated, Bishop has kissed Rogue on more than one occasion. Two particular instances of note are in Extreme X-Men when Rogue was depowered, and another time during Astonishing X-Men when he daisy-chained Psylocke's telekinetic power through Rogue to himself with devastatingly powerful effects. Since House of X, Bishop has been promoted to be one of the great captains of Krakoa, acting as a commander in the field and answering really only to Cyclops in terms of combat and field mission leadership. He's also been acting as the primary trainer in regards to mutant fighting tactics and battle strategies, as well as synchronizing multiple mutant powers to achieve special offensive and defensive combat tactics. Not only that, but he currently presides as the Red Bishop in the Hellfire Trading Company. Now, when we talk about media appearances, Bishop's most popular depiction in the realm of television was on several episodes of the 1990s X-Men animated TV series where he was voiced by Philip Aiken. He was mostly depicted in a Days of Future Past style adaptation where he tried to prevent a dark future timeline, as in the original comic book story arc. Bishop also makes an appearance in the Wolverine and the X-Men animated series, voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson. In this series, he helps Wolverine when he's transported to the Days of Future Past timeline. Speaking of more Days of Future Past, Bishop is portrayed by Omar Sy in 2014's X-Men Days of Future Past, where in ways similar to Darwin in X-Men First Class, Bishop is killed in a way that in the comics would not actually happen. His body is overloaded by Sentinels, continuously barraging him with energy beams. In the comics, he simply would have exhausted the excess energy and kept on going. This is what happens when you let people who don't actually read comics direct comic book movies. Also, the director is a pedophile. Bishop is a playable character in the X-Men Next Dimension video game. He is also in the video game X-Men Game Master's Legacy. There's also a young version of Bishop in the video game X-Men Legends, voiced by Grey Delisle. He is also a playable character in X-Men Legends 2, Rise of Apocalypse, and voiced by Kari Payton. He is also an NPC in the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 video game, where he is portrayed by Emerson Brooks. And he can also become a potential boss character if you choose the anti-registration story arc. Bishop is also an NPC in the video game Marvel Heroes, where he is once again portrayed by Emerson Brooks, and he is also available as a playable character in Marvel Contest of Champions and Marvel Future Fight, as well as the Facebook game Marvel Avengers Alliance, where he is a PvP reward. Now, normally when I do videos like this, I like to pick an actor who I think could play this character on the big or small screen, and you know what, I'm gonna do something I don't normally do here. I think a lot of people who are familiar with the channel, you guys know I'm not particularly fond of stunt casting or, casting based on looks alone, but I did about a year or so ago remember seeing Method Man cosplaying as Bishop, and I gotta admit, it was really cool to see. It looked awesome. He looked like a spitting image of Bishop, and just, I don't know, something about it, it just hit for me, and I started thinking, I was like, you know what, honestly, I think he could do it. He could probably pull this off. Method Man, for a guy who is mostly known as a rapper, but he has taken on more of an acting capacity since the mid to late 90s, and granted, where some of his roles may be small to nothing, I think if given the chance, especially with the proper direction, I think he could actually do something very special. We've seen him in movies like Vampires vs. the Bronx, Peppermint, Shaft, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Red Tails, Garden State, and various other movies. I think he actually could pull this off, if given the chance. Also, when doing videos like these, I like to give a little recommended reading, and what I'm going to suggest is going to be a little all over the place, so bear with me. Uncanny X-Men number 282 is going to be a great place to start because that is Bishop's first appearance. I also would recommend 283 as well. I will also recommend you check out Uncanny X-Men number 288 up until around the time of 290, and maybe even read on up until issue number 300, because this is about roughly the time that Bishop joins the X-Men for the first time, and we also get to see his rivalry with Gambit play out. I also recommend checking out the story arc X-Men X-Men, The Times and Life of Lucas Bishop, if you want to learn more about his past. I also recommend you check out Extreme X-Men, where Bishop largely works as a detective, but he also gets to work very closely with a Storm-led X-Men team, and that's also a really cool thing in and of itself. And if you want to get into some of the more problematic things that Bishop has gotten up to, I do recommend you check out Messiah Complex and Messiah War if you want to see Bishop on his absolute worst behavior and becoming more of an X-Men villain than an X-Men hero. Also recommend you check out Cable number 24, which is about roughly where Bishop has his last chance to hunt down Cable and Baby Hope, and then finally begins questioning his own mission in trying to kill her. That said, Bishop is a great character. I like him a lot. I remember not being terribly crazy about him when he first showed up because, once again, as I talked about in some other videos for other characters, he always came off as the angry black man stereotype. But that said, like most characters usually written over time, he kind of grew out of that. He matured and became something better. He became a more interesting and nuanced character. So yeah, over time, he grew on me. And then roughly about around the time that he grew on me, he became a bad guy for a while, but that's neither here nor there. I think Bishop is an awesome character. He doesn't get as much to do these days as I would like, but I am kind of hoping that at some point in time, Bishop does get some bigger roles to play. I feel like, especially with everything going on now with the X-Men House of X and, Reign of X, all this stuff, I feel like Bishop should be playing a much bigger role in all this, considering that he knows the future. But that is neither here nor there. If you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure to share this video all over the internet and with all your friends so they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to the Marvel Comics character Bishop. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you think about the Marvel Comics character Bishop. Have you always known about him, or are you today years old finding out about him? Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.